I'm still not entirely sure I'll get through this eulogy, so I guess we'll have to find out together. This isn't about me, though. It's about my father. You all knew him, which is why you're here today to help me in celebrating his life. You know what a good man he was and how hard he worked to provide for his family. There's so much I want to say about my dad, his love of family and culture, and I wish his story could have gone on further. But here is just a few. Dad was firstborn of 14 children in Renegal, Glen Bay, County Kerry, Ireland, and grew up in Rare Cross, Tipperary. As a young man, he came to America by way of Canada. He arrived with very little money and entered the United States through Buffalo. He didn't have enough money for bus fare to travel to New York City, where his sponsor lived, so he visited the local Catholic church in Buffalo. There he spoke with a priest who ended up buying him his bus ticket to New York. My dad found work in New York, and with one of his first paychecks, he wrote a letter to the priest in Buffalo thanking him and repaying him with the bus fare. Being a new resident to the United States at that time, my dad had to register for the draft. The U.S. is in the middle of the Korean War conflict, and he was promptly drafted into the Air Force. He served 4 years overseas, received an honorable discharge, and returned to New York. Dad met my mom, Mary, a Connemara girl, at an Irish dance in New York City in the Bronx. Correct. They lived in an apartment in Astoria, which they quickly outgrew after their fourth child came along. Dad applied for a VA loan and moved his family to a home in Belrose, where his family would grow to a total of 9 children. He worked for the New York Telephone Company as a lineman and repairman, climbing poles and installing home telephones. He frequently had jobs in Bayside, Whitestone, and College Point, where he became an almost daily fixture at his brother Willie's house. And he used to hang on a pole and eavesdrop on everybody's conversations. One day while he was working, he came across a house on fire. He sprang into action, grabbed his phone company ladder off the truck, put it up to the building. People were trapped on the second floor, and he rescued them. For his heroism, Dad received letters of commendation from the mayor's office, the police department, and the New York Telephone Company presented him with a Theodore Vail bronze medal for his act of bravery. That's over on the table there if you want to look at it. I just saw a picture in that book. He was sitting at the president of the New York Telephone's desk, and the grin on his face, you wouldn't believe it. He was on the top of the ivory tower, just enjoying every second of it. Dad shared his love of the beach by taking us kids to Rockaway Beach on many weekends and summers. He always loved to stop at the Irish Circle bar on his way home, where he would buy his kids all the chips and soda we wanted, while he would chat with his old friends from Ireland. Dad was a devout Catholic, and he would go on many retreats and had all his kids attend Catholic school, where they all graduated. He made sure everyone attended Sunday Mass at St. Gregory Great by collecting bulletins from each child. Where's the bulletin? Our Irish heritage was important to Dad, and he made sure to pass it on to his children. He would take us to Gaelic Park in the Bronx on a Sunday afternoon to watch the hurling matches and visit with the relatives in the Bronx. Some times were spent in the Irish Alps, upstate New York, better known as, there was a Shamrock House up there in the Catskills. It wasn't easily affordable at that time to travel to Ireland, but Dad was determined to show his kids his home country. He took out a bank loan and took the whole family to Ireland, not once, but twice. And we enjoyed that trip, and we met all of our relatives in Ireland. He was a wealth of knowledge when we were in Ireland. He always remembered where everybody lived. He knew all the neighbors, and as well as all the names of everyone and their histories. Mom's side in the family in Connemara were very fond of my father. He fit in very well with the Connollys and was well loved. He even picked up a few words of Gaelic. He made frequent visits to a Flaherty's bar, which was probably his favorite bar in Ireland. And he would get a pint in there, and he was never happier. It was a very small bar on the ocean, and it was very picturesque, and he loved that place. Very quiet, too. Mary's home in Connemara quickly became one of his favorite places to visit. We, our family, will continue and bring our families back to the places that he loved to go. Connemara, Galway, Ballyhigh, Rare Cross, and all parts of Kerry. Mom and Dad would take the kids to family swim and lessons at Eastern Queens YMCA. Dad pushed us hard with swimming as he saw it was a way to go to college and better ourselves. By doing so, not only did he create a legacy of collegiate swimmers and Jones Beach lifeguards, but he, along with his children, made friendships that have gone on to last a lifetime. Dad was strict, but with a sense of humor. If you came back into the house late at night and snuck in, he would jump out of a closet or something with a flashlight and interview you. Aha, I got you drinking, I got you. Go to bed, he'd tell us. He loved doing that. I think Mom would be in there laughing like, Our house was known to have many cake parties when we were growing up. And my dad wouldn't tell you to just stop it. He would just say, hurry up and finish that cake and then go to bed. He had an amazing memory. He remembered every dumb thing you did, and he reminded you every time he saw you. Dad, he had a love of civil service. For him, having a civil service job was like striking gold. My father changed the course of my life by forcing me to take the police department exam right out of high school. The day of the test, he got me out of bed, threw me in the back of his telephone truck, and personally drove me down to Francis Lewis, and all his tools were falling on top of me. I'm in the back of this truck, and he said, get in there and take the test. So eventually, I passed the exam, but by then I was already in the Army, and my dad worked tirelessly to make sure I got a letter, and it secured my position on the police department at a later date, and I can thank him for that. It was all his doing. Dad was known in the neighborhood as Mr. McLoughlin. At some point, he started being called Ed. Some people in Ireland called him Ned. Then he became Big Ed. And not only because of his generous heart, but it was his big personality. But when the grandchildren started coming along, he simply became Pop-Up, and that's what we called him up until the very end. The McLoughlin clan grew quickly. It expanded to include the Glendays, the Devines, the Maroscas, the Valentines. If you thought Dad was impressed with his children, he was even prouder of his 19 grandchildren. His grandchildren included swimmers and athletes, young adults with a love of art, music, and education, all things that were important to him. Today, his family continues to grow, as the last few years saw the first great-grandchild arrive, and one more on the way in December. As Dad aged, he continued to stay close to his family. He enjoyed making the rounds on the weekends, stopping in for a cup of tea, a pint of beer, or a snack, and to chat and tell us stories. Over the last year, we noticed the sparkle in his eyes dim and his health fail. And he even told me a few months ago that it was time for him to go. For the first time in years, my brothers and I got together and organized a visit with him just last Wednesday. We had a short time with him, and we had one last toast with him around a beer, not realizing it would be our last. Mom, after 59 years of marriage, we know you are heartbroken and lost. Please know your family is here to help and support you. In spite of all the hardship, you and Dad created a pretty spectacular family. We will never forget the sacrifices our dad made to make a better life for us all. And we will continue in tradition to make a better life for our own families. There was no doubt my father touched a number of lives, and I know that he was important to everyone. And I know his legacy lives on in the good he did in his community and in the lives of everyone who knew him. I know Dad is looking down right now on us, and he would have loved all the attention. It is fitting to end with an Irish prayer titled, Remember Joy. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I followed a plan God laid for me. I saw his face, I heard his call. I took his hand and I left it all. I could not stay another day to love, to laugh, to work, or play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. And if my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Ah, yes, these things I too shall miss. My life's been full, I've savored much. Good times, good friends, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't shorten yours with undue grief. Be not burdened with tears of sorrow. Enjoy the sunshine of the morrow. Everyone now, please stand in celebrating the man we all knew and loved with a short round of applause. My father, Edward McLoughlin.